Good evening and welcome to TiVi Tuần-san News of the Week. My name is Emma Doe. In what's making headlines this week, 3 Vietnamese families flee the country by boat for a second time. Vietnam's freedom status unchanged from last year. And a new TV series based on the Vietnam War. In this week's top story, 3 Vietnamese families returned by Australian authorities last year have again fled the country by boat. Their lawyer, Vo Anh Don, wrote on social media that the families of Trân Thị Thanh Loan, Trân Thị Lụa and Trân Thị Phúc left Vietnam on August 31st and are currently passing Indonesian waters and heading to Australia. Don also said Loan and Lua told him on the phone that they will drown themselves at sea if the Australian government does not accept them and decides to return them to Vietnam. All 3 families fled to Australia in 2015 but were returned to Vietnam the same year. Some were sentenced to a total of 6 years in prison by a court in Binh Thuận province on Vietnam's southeast coast. Don said he was shocked by the news and told the family they would face old and new judgments of 7 to 10 years in prison if they were returned by Australia. The Australian government has a zero-tolerance position towards unauthorised boat arrivals under its Operation Sovereign Borders policy. Vietnamese trainee nurses can now stay in Japan for more than 1 year after their official training period. Since 2014, Vietnam has sent trainee nurses and caregivers to Japan, a rapidly ageing country with severe labour shortages. Trainee nurses have an official 3 or 4 year training period, after which they can sit a national exam in order to keep working in the country. The Japanese government's new decision gives trainee nurses an extra year to take the exam, which qualifies them. It's estimated that about 470 Vietnamese medical staff members are currently working in Japan. Vietnam's rail safety is being called into question after 43 train collisions in 1 month. From January 1st to February 4th this year, rail accidents killed 19 people and injured 38 others, according to data from the Vietnam Railway Company. Most of these occurred at level crossings when residents ignored signs. A lack of guards and automatic alarms also contributed to the toll. A Vietnam Railway Company report reveals only a quarter of the country's 5,800 level crossings are equipped with either automatic alarms or stationed guards. A member of the National Traffic Safety Commission has suggested speed bumps to slow traffic at level crossings. Vietnam has fined a Hong Kong-based textile firm for releasing toxic wastewater in the northern province of Hải Dương. The Pacific Crystal Textiles Company was fined the equivalent of 39,000 Australian dollars for discharging wastewater that exceeded permitted levels of toxic waste. The company began operating in Hải Dương province in December 2015. According to Vietnam's General Statistics Office, 80% of the country's industrial parks violated environmental regulations last year. Vietnam has once again been ranked as having very little political freedom by the US watchdog Freedom House. The country's status as one of the 49 countries graded not free remains unchanged from last year. The report grades 195 countries on the scale of free, somewhat free and not free. Vietnam's score for civil liberties was also low. Overall, the country's aggregate score was 20 out of 100, where 0 is least free and 100 is most free. A petition to release Vietnamese activist Trân Thị Nga has garnered nearly 850 individual signatures and support from 31 local community organisations. The petition demands the immediate release of Nga, who was allegedly harassed, attacked and monitored before being arrested at her home on January 21st this year. Nga, an advocate for human rights and democracy, was charged by the Vietnamese government for propaganda against the administration. From late March, Vietnam will legalise betting on horse and greyhound races, as well as international soccer matches. From March 31st, citizens will be allowed to place face-to-face bets with state-sanctioned bookmakers. The minimum bet value is the equivalent of 6 Australian cents, while the daily maximum limit is the equivalent of 57 Australian dollars. The announcement legalising sports betting was made on Friday and follows a recent decision to allow certain Vietnamese locals into the country's casinos. Gambling outside of state-owned lotteries has long been banned in Vietnam. But it's believed the latest decisions are an effort to curb widespread black market gambling. A Vietnamese war drama is slated for release on the American Discovery Channel. The series, called The Suck, is based on an unpublished memoir by Vietnam veteran and former Greenpeace International executive Stephen McAllister. It traces an American experience in the Vietnam War. The 10-episode series is due to air in 2018. Members of the Vietnamese community in Victoria celebrated the arrival of spring and the Year of the Rooster with the final Vietnamese Lunar New Year festival over the weekend. The family-friendly event included a lineup of stalls selling traditional food, a wide range of entertainment and cultural exhibits. Van Nguyen has the details.
The last Vietnamese Lunar New Year festival in the state of Victoria was held in Melbourne's northwest over the weekend. The two-day event at the Melbourne Showgrounds in Ascot Vale treated festival goers to a lineup of traditional foods, entertainment, cultural exhibits, amusement rides and more. The annual festival, hosted by the Vietnamese community in Australia Victorian chapter, began on Saturday morning with a flag-raising ceremony. After the official opening ceremony, there was an award ceremony to congratulate last year's VCE students from the Vietnamese community who achieved study scores above 98. Andrew Nguyen was one of the recipients.
I attend Wesley College, the St Kilda Road campus, and I scored an ATAR of 98.4 in the VCE, and now I plan on doing my Bachelor of Commerce at the University of Melbourne.
An ancestors ceremony also took place at the Lunar New Year Festival. Both Phan Đình Bảo Kim and Bruce Davies were there.
I'm a daughter of General Lam Son of the South Vietnam Armed Forces. And I actually joined the Australian Army Cadet since 2014. I'm here to support the community, also to get the cadet to guard the altar, to support the Vietnamese community as well.
Well, I served in Vietnam for 3 years. I first went in 1965 and I was based at Bien Hoa. And then when I went back to Vietnam, I became an advisor and I worked in what was called I-Corps, Military Region 1, up in Quang Tri, Tuat Tien, Quang Nam, Quang Ngai. And later I went up to Pleiku in the Central Highlands.
For the first time ever, this year's Tet Festival was not organised by the older Vietnamese generation. Mr. Dũng Le, CEO of Hollywood Nails and one of 3 judges for the Tet Voice Singing Competition, explained.
Chợ Tết cộng đồng năm nay nó rất là khác biệt. The Vietnamese community's New Year festival this year is very different and special because the younger Vietnamese are the ones taking responsibility and directly organising the event. Instead of making it indoors, they decided to have it outdoors so that there's more fresh air. And today is the second day. In about 10 minutes at 4 p.m, the young organisers have planned an event called the Golden Voice Final Competition.
Running from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. both days, the family-friendly event also experienced Melbourne's famous weather with hot temperatures above 35 degrees and flashes of heavy rain. This year, Tet fell on January 28 and welcomed in the Year of the Rooster. Van Nguyen, TiVi Tuần-san.
That's all from TiVi Tuần-san News of the Week. For more stories, you can follow TiVi Tuần-san at tvtsonline.com.au and Facebook at TiVi Tuần-san. I'm Emma Doe. Thank you so much for watching and I look forward to your company at the same time next week.